glass ball on the end. Where have you seen one of those before? Outside a barber shop. I'm still using the same symbol today to show you what they do for a living. You try going into Tony and Guy and getting them to balance the humours. They haven't got a clue. So, that's another of the methods we can use for the taking of blood. Method number 3. If my charts tell me, your arm please, if my charts tell me that I need to take blood from this point here, but I'm not allowed to take it from this point here, I need to be a little bit more accurate. I can't use scarification because that's quite a broad area technique. I can't use simply making a hole because there isn't a blood vessel big enough there to take enough blood from. So what I need to do is make a small hole, but I need to actively pull the blood out of it. One of the things I can use for that is these. These are cupping jars. Cupping jars, I will have an assistant with about 4 or 5 of these already, warming them over a candle flame. And once they're lovely and warm, what I would do is my assistant would be ready with them. I would identify the area I need to take them from, pierce the hole, and then place the warm cupping jar over there. Hold on to that for me. Usually smear a bit of goose fat around the lip of the bowl to give a good seal. And then what's going to happen is the air inside there cools, it contracts, and you've probably seen these used in alternative medicine. They will actually actively suck the blood out of the wound. So while it's stuck there, the skin will be pulled into the glass jar and the blood will come out. And that will stop it clotting, so I can get enough blood out to make it effective. And I probably need about 4 or 5 of these cupping jars ready and waiting. So when that one's full, I can pop it off and put the next one on and just keep that blood flowing out. And I then of course have a ready-made examination jar for the blood. I can check it out, smell it and taste it. So, it's their own body weight in blood. So by the time these are finished feeding, they will probably be about the same size as my medium amputation chisel. Right, so they will get quite big. We'll probably use 4 or 5 different leeches to take enough blood out, and say we've got to get lots out. And then when they've finished feeding, we would squeeze the leech out into the examination vessel, into the bleeding bowl, just so I could see taking the right amount of the correct blood and you were feeling much better. And then the leech would be discarded. They haven't got a soul, and there's no animal rights in the 15th century. So they were pretty much a disposable item. These have been with us for a while now. We treat these well. And these are actually supplied to us by a medical supplies company. We're still using leeches in medicine today. Is that right?
I think so.
Well, which bit of medicine do you do? You don't know.
I don't know much, I want to.
Oh. You said you were medically qualified. I think you're a physician. You know.
I don't know medicine.
Right. So, yeah, they're very efficient in taking blood for a number of reasons. They can drink quite a lot of blood. They have a triple jaw. When they bite, they make a Y-shaped wound, which is a bigger surface area for blood to come out of. They have an anaesthetic as part of their saliva, so that when they bite you don't feel them. Has anyone actually had a leech on them? No? No? Yeah. When did you notice it then?
I don't know when it appeared. It was from the canal.
Did you just sort of look down and see?
There it was,
Yeah. So you don't generally feel them because of the anaesthetic. And you don't really notice there's anything hanging on to you because it's at exactly your body temperature, because it's your blood it's feeding on. And they also have an anticoagulant in their saliva which prevents blood clots from happening, so they can feed until they're full and then simply drop off. So very efficient at taking blood from people. Having a good swim round there, now it's all warmed up. They love a bit of sunshine. They actually come from a medical supplies company in a nutrient gel, which keeps them fed and keeps them hungry for use in actual medicine. I was talking to a trauma surgeon at one of my shows last year who uses leeches when he's reattaching limbs. Reattaching, that's proper surgery. Because it promotes blood flow, the anti-clotting agents, they come to us sterile and ready for use in the hospital. actually have probably quite a lot more fun with us, I think, rather than being used in a hospital and then incinerated. So that's the various ways we can take blood. Thank you very much for being my patient there. So it's not all about the taking of blood. I can do dentistry as well. So I can do teeth. You've got various items for the pulling of teeth, but that's a sort of drastic last measure, to be honest. Has anyone got any sort of wobbly teeth or toothache at the moment? No, there's a surprise. There are a number of less invasive treatments for toothache, one of which you may recognise. Recognise that? Yeah, oil of cloves, which you can buy from the chemist these days. Medieval times, very expensive, but very good as a cure for toothache. So you can buy that now in the chemist. Put a few drops onto an aching tooth and it will soothe the pain. If it gets a little bit more serious than that, you all know what causes toothache, by the way, yes? Yeah? What causes toothache? Nobody knows?
Exposed nerve endings.
Yeah, exposed nerve endings. So nowadays, you know, if you eat too many sugary things, the bacteria thrive in your mouth, eat away at the tooth enamel, get inside your tooth, eat away at the inside of your tooth, expose the nerve ending to the air, and that causes toothache. Have you got toothache there? Sure.
Cured.
Medieval people didn't know about nerves. So they didn't really know about exposing to the air or bacteria or anything like that. So according to my theories, as a medieval dentist, I believe that the pain has been caused by the toothworm. Because if you look inside a badly decayed tooth, if you look down the cavity, at the bottom of the cavity, you can see a little wiggly white thing burrowing its way into your jaw. It's not actually burrowing its way into your jaw, that's the nerve sheath that protects the nerve as it goes from your jaw into the tooth. And when that gets exposed to air, that's what hurts. We can't see the nerve, but we can see the nerve sheath as this little wiggly white thing. It was assumed, therefore, that that was a toothworm, probably laying its eggs or something in your jaw, and that's what was going to cause the pain. There are a number of treatments for the toothworm. I shall use you. One of the treatments was to take a pair of tweezers and a grain of salt, and you would open wide, and the grain of salt would be dropped into the cavity of the tooth. And what would happen then is I would take a bowl, fill it with some water, and then the patient would hold the bowl over their open mouth. And what's going to happen then, of course, is the toothworm will become thirsty from the salt. It will crawl out of the tooth into the water for a drink and drown. Therefore, the pain would go away. So do you think that actually worked? And if I was to tell you that in some cases it did work, any idea why? You can come a bit closer, so I can turn the volume down. I'm not actually going to do any operations on it, I'm not that scared. Any ideas why that might have worked? Sorry?
Is it like a placebo?
No. What can happen is, if you put enough salt into a tooth, it'll desiccate the nerve to such an extent that the nerve atrophies and dies. And if the nerve dies, you don't get any pain anymore. So it worked for completely the wrong reason. There is another way of treating the toothworm. Another way is to take a candle and light it. You have a nice little candle, you would open wide, and the candle would be inserted into the mouth under the tooth where the decay was, where the toothworm was believed to be. Believing that the toothworm would be attracted towards the light of the candle, fall out of the tooth, probably burn itself on the flame and die, and then the pain would go away. So do you think that actually worked? You're nodding. Why?
Burn the nerve so there's no more pain.
Now you're thinking like a medieval surgeon. Yes, it would burn the nerve ending. So sometimes the nerve ending would be burnt You can see the nerve is dead, no more pain from that nerve. That, obviously, I don't use that technique. I am a natural philosopher, a man of science, so I don't believe that technique will work. Because the tooth worm, by its very nature, is a burrowing animal and will shy away from the light. So I prefer a much more scientific approach when treating the tooth worm. I have here a brass pin and a brass tube. Brass is particularly good. It's quite a soft metal, so I can squash it to the size and shape of the tooth I'm about to treat. The brass tube, open wide, the brass tube would be placed over the tooth to be treated, where the cavity is. The needle would be heated at the end until it was red hot. And then it's basically the tube, so you can take my fingers in your mouth. The pin, the spike would be inserted down the tube into the tooth, and it would kill the tooth worm that way. And you would go away without your tooth. So the cornea is the clear bit that covers the front of the eye, and with cataracts a film grows on the inside of that cornea. And for a medieval person, being blind is probably one of the most terrifying things that could happen to them. It was a real concern for them. There's no support for blind people. If you can't see, you can't work. If you can't work, you don't get paid. If you don't get paid, you get kicked out of your houses. Terrible situation. People were really, really paranoid about becoming blind. Luckily, cataracts, although common, are easily treatable. And this surgical technique has been passed down to us from the Romans, we learned it from the Greeks. There's even some evidence to suggest that the Egyptians before them knew about cataract surgery. And this design of cataract knife is based on Roman design. It's almost identical to its Roman equivalent. Again, you would need several burly assistants to hold your patient in place and to hold their eye open. No anaesthetic, of course. And even today, they cannot use general anaesthetics when they perform eye surgery. If you give somebody a general anaesthetic, their eyes roll back into their head when they go to sleep. They can't operate on the eye properly. So during an eye operation, and I know because I had one a few years ago, you are awake. And a big burly nurse comes towards you with a scalpel, like so. And it's quite scary. So, the patient would be awake. They would be held in a headlock, and then you would use, it's a chisel bladed scalpel. And that's because it's going in two directions. You round most of the way on either side of the cornea, and then flip it open like the top of a spice jar. This end can then be used. This is almost exactly the correct size and shape for the inside of an adult's cornea. That would be used to scrape out the cataract from the cornea, and then the eye would be folded, the cornea would be folded back in place, and the eye would be patched up, and they were told not to look around too much at stuff. And the eye is actually quite a tough organ. It'll only take a couple of days for that cornea to start healing and be firm again. So even quite invasive surgery like that, we could, and it was a daily, ordinary sort of surgery that we perform. So it's not all barbarism. We're not all butchers. We are fairly clever. Men of letters. I'm a professional. Are you medically trained, madam?
No.
Yeah, you see, you've got that look in your eyes. I'm fascinated by gore. Good to know. Good to know. Sorry? It's quite a simple operation. You're probably in that. Mine was quite exciting. I got hit with the butt end of a tournament race in the eye. And it scrapped, really badly scratched the cornea. So I had to go into hospital and they had to strip away all the outer layers of the cornea. So it was all the same level, so it all grew back at the same level. I'm fine. But it was really painful. For about 10 days it was like somebody was stubbing a cigar out of my eye socket. Can't recommend it, be more careful. Wear safety goggles.
You shot me last year.